Fernando.
Thank you, brother.
Gracias. What's up, guys?
What's up?
What's cracking?
Who do we have here, Coach? Who is this?
Man, it's like a great honor to introduce this guy.
Yeah.
I consider him one of my great mentors, a great friend in the business. I know he doesn't like the compliments, but you got to give him in private. You got to give him in front of him. And I thank you for everything you've done for me in my life. But there's a saying, I want to make sure we start it off. Something I learned from you. ¿Tú qué sabes inglés? Háblanos, Fernando.
¿Tú qué hablas inglés?
¿Qué hablas inglés? Talk to us, champ.
I hear you. No. The honor is all mine. Is this cool? Like,
Yeah, you're good, man.
Closer?
Yeah.
Okay. So the honor really is all mine to be with you guys and have a chance to get to know you a little bit better. I think I know you too much already. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, a little too much.
No, it is a pleasure. This has been in the making for a while. I know we talked about doing something long ago, and then I think once or twice we had it more or less penciled in, and then it didn't pan out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that we're doing it after all this time. So I'm happy to do it, and I think that if there is a way that we can share something with agents, with people that can benefit from some of the experiences that we've had in the past, whether it relates to business, whether it relates to life in business, whether it relates to running especially, or cycling for that matter nowadays. Hey, let's
big cyclist, man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How many miles do you cycle each weekend?
So I'll tell you, I went through a little bit of a evolution, I suppose, or however you want to call it, but runner for a long time. Mm-hmm. You and I had, man, like once in a while, not too long ago, with a friend of mine, I was having a conversation and about the training that we used to do at Griffith Park.
Correct.
Getting ready for the LA Marathon.
Yeah.
That was a big one. It was a big one. That the LA Marathon, when we projected it, 5 months ahead of time, and we'll start training and we'll have this. It was almost like an appointment. We didn't miss a Saturday, I don't think, for years, probably.
Rain or shine.
Griffith Park, exactly, rain or shine.
Yep.
The weather didn't really matter. Sometimes it was cold, sometimes it was hot. It just didn't matter. We were out there to take care of business, and it was such an awesome thing. Put it this way, the highlights for me, on those days were when we were going, whether it's uphill. I remember the uphill coming back from the back of the Hollywood sign. Mm-hmm. So we'll go down the back of the Hollywood sign, and then we'll wind up through the trails. And then there is this, I don't know if it has a name or not, but it's climbing through the back. There is a trail there.
There's a name to it. Yes, there is a trail.
It's all dirt.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit of an incline. And I just remember that trail both ways. Going down, we'll be flying, him and I. And for some reason, right about then, we'll pick up the same pace. And I remember going side by side with this guy. Put it this way, Lorena, I know it's gonna sound weird, but it doesn't really matter. It's just what it is. But we'll have I remember just being with the run and kind of like watching my breathing. Don't make anything of it, or make a lot of it. But I remember having the same breathing rhythm with you going downhill, and it was like when you're so in tune, the stride. Right, so there is this stride, right? Long strides because we're going downhill is more or less effortless, but you gotta watch out because you have a lot of momentum going down, and your breathing is always important. So I just remember kind of being tuned in to his breathing, not on purpose, but we were just like tuned in and just flying downhill. Now, crazy part, we'll go and do our thing to the back of the Hollywood sign, come back, and then here we go. Now we're going on an uphill, same stretch, but now we're going uphill. And I remember just thinking back on, we were just coming down and we were tuned up on the breathing. And what I would try to do on uphill, you were always faster. And I do remember trying to just lock on to his breathing and try to kind of learn from there or stay there. Those were fun times, dude. Those were fun times.
Wait, did you guys meet running or did you guys meet in real estate?
No, real estate.
In real estate. And then
the office, yeah.
And then you guys realize you both run together and you guys start running together?
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Both realize you're crazy.
Yeah, we both realize what
crazy.
Yeah, what he's not saying there'll be days I'm on it. And then at the end of the race, like once we finished, it was more or less we averaged about half a marathon each weekend.
Yeah.
We casually say it, but he's seen the trail this weekend. Remember when I pointed the trail out?
Yeah.
Out there?
Yeah, we went to the
Griffith Park,
observatory. Yeah.
What'd you think about the hills?
I mean, we only walked up
Yeah.
maybe like half a mile.
And what did you just imagine?
It looks intense.
Imagine
I can't
running
imagine running them though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not a runner, but
yeah, we will run the stretch. We'll start even down at
the bottom.
Feliz.
Yeah, Los Feliz.
Right there,
Wow.
a little bear right there.
yeah.
And so
He
we'll
showed me it.
literally at the corner, we will start there. From there to the back of the Hollywood sign and back.
Wow.
You can imagine the trails that we'll go through. Most people walk them.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I'm sure that's fun.
And here's these two crazy people just running them.
Boom. And the funny thing is that he's saying it so casually, but
Yeah.
there'll be days where he's kicking my ass. Like he's hauling ass. And I'm, how the hell is this guy doing it today? Because we both had almost the same running schedule. We both had, he's seen me at the office. I'll see him at the office.
Yeah.
And he's hauling ass. And I'm trying to catch up to him. And then almost every other run, he'd be like, man, I was just trying to catch up to you. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to catch up to you.
Yeah.
And that's what he's talking about. That there was days he'll kick my ass. And those days he'd tell, man, you kicked my ass. And I'm like, bro, you were right next to me. But we were both
Yeah.
just pushing each other. And but yeah, we met through Century 21 at my previous office, Century 21 and Better Service Realty.
That's right.
And man, how many, and I know you,
How many years ago was this that you guys met?
2005,
2005.
18?
Wow.
18 years.
18 years, but
18
who's
years.
counting?
Yeah.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
And how many years have you been a Centurion straight in a row?
So I'll tell you that the real estate business and the opportunity that we were given to have a license and to work with people, to meet people, to help families, to work with investors, to work with buyers, to work with sellers, it's unbelievable. It's such a thing, right? Just feel so thankful to have had the opportunity to get that license and then find an office and then work for all of those years with a lot of clients and just have that opportunity. But it's been something like this. If maybe I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah. Please do.
I tell you, I had what most people call, what we call nowadays, your regular job, right? That was me. I had a job. I had a full-time job.
Doing what?
So at the time when I started in real estate, I was working at this factory. It was a manufacturing place, and the work there was to build pressure vessels. We work with metal. You work with your hands, and you get dirty, and you start early in the morning. And there was even a bell that will go off, right? It's time to start, and then a bell to stop, and okay, now you can go home. So I had that schedule. And at the same time, having a full-time job, I always went to school for a number of years, since my late teenage years, and straight up till I was about 21 when I started in the business. So I started in 1991. I still had that schedule, your regular job. So I started part-time in the business.
Yeah.
Just part-time.
Which is what majority of the realtors start in as, right? Majority of them were part-time.
Yeah, most of us do that. So I'm one of them. That's how I started. So at my regular job, by then I had been at the company for 5 years. And one thing that I do recall is that the owner of the company was a small company, fairly small company, not tiny, but not large. And there was the owner of the company who was always very present in the company. He would be, I think he was German or something.
What city was the company in?
In Southgate.
Okay.
In Southgate. And I started, I remember when I was looking for an office to work, a real estate office, I wanted something that was close to Southgate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Southgate, Bell, Maywood.
What city did you live in at the time when you were working in Southgate at that factory?
So at that time I lived in East Los Angeles.
East LA.
I lived in East LA. I was going to ELAC, Community College.
Okay.
And I had in mind, my outlook was always to become a CPA. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Always has something to do with numbers.
Yeah,
Numbers.
numbers. Like business.
Yeah.
So I go, I'll become a CPA and I'll be working in business. That was my thinking.
Yeah.
All right. So one day, they had career night at ELAC.
Oh.
And career night, some good looking, good, well dressed. Did I say good looking?
Yeah.
I was like, well,
Yeah, good looking.
maybe it might have been good.
We'll edit that.
Well dressed.
We'll edit that. We'll just say very well looking.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
It was a team, or what was it? It was a
I remember
booth.
It was two guys. It was two guys that came and presented.
Oh,
At
I thought
career-
you meant girls.
No,
Oh, never mind. Yeah, they were good looking. They were just well dressed.
they were well dressed.
Yeah, well
That's
dressed.
really what I meant to say. Maybe we
I thought
can
it was girls. I'm like, yeah, very well looking. I already know you, champ.
maybe we can edit that part.
Yeah, we'll edit that part. Minute some.
Whatever. Yeah, so these guys, they came over and they presented in the real estate business. I didn't know what real estate was. I wanted to be a CPA. And in their presentation, they explained that in real estate, you don't really make money on salary per se. You don't, because I asked, hey, so how much do you get paid? So
Right.
we don't get paid anything. What? I don't want to do that. I don't know. So how do you make your money? Well, we make a commission off of selling properties. And
Right.
depending what the property sells for, we get a percentage when we close a transaction. And then I remember I asked a very smart question, right? Okay, so they started giving examples. So we sell a property for $100,000. We typically get paid 3%. That's $3,000. So I'm trying to work numbers in my head. And then I asked a very intelligent question, I thought. I asked the guys, hey, so in how many houses are you allowed to sell in 1 month? Smart, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's a pretty-
absolutely.
That's actually an important
Yeah, what's the
question.
limitation?
Yeah, is there a limit to this?
So this guy said, well, as many as you want. I go, well, that's
As many as you can.
3,000 times as many as you want. That's looking pretty good.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. So I, right about then, I decided, well, I'm gonna try that because I want to buy a house at some point in time. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then if I can get my real estate license based on what these guys are talking about, if I don't make a career out of that, at least I can, I will know something on how to do my own transaction. And if I just bought that one house, well, that would be okay. That was my thinking, very superficial. Time goes by, and ELAC happened to offer real estate principles, escrow principles.
Oh, okay.
So
The certificates you need to get licensed.
exactly
Nice.
the requirements to be able to sit in for the state exam.
Yeah.
I took them at ELAC.
Oh, interesting.
And as soon as I completed that, I went for the state exam, and thankfully I passed the state exam.
First try or second try?
First try.
Nice.
So
Congrats.
So it's good. I kind of think of myself as a good student, but just that's it, just a good student. You don't know how to do.
Es que tú sabes inglés.
Tú que hablas inglés.
Tú que hablas inglés.
Try to figure it
It
out.
starts there.
Try to figure it out.
There.
So what office did you join when you got licensed?
Funny story. Funny you asked that, Jesse. So I remember I worked in Southgate, right?
Yeah.
And I still have my full-time job, and I want to start in this part-time. I remember I went to an office that's on Paramount Boulevard by Downey. I think it's Downey High School or Warren, one of those high schools.
Yeah.
There's a small office there, and I remember I walked in, and this gentleman came out. It was very quiet, but this gentleman came out and he said, "Can I help you?" I go, "Yes, I just got my license. I'm looking for an office to work out of." And this guy said, "First question, part-time or full-time?" And I go, "Well, I have this job, so it'll be part-time for now." And this is what he said. What did you say your name was? My name is Fernando Moreno. So it's Fernando. We're not hiring any part-time agents.
What?
Wow.
So that was that.
Was it a high producing office?
Really?
I've never heard the name after that, so I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
So right, I think the office is still there. So
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Never
But
mind.
that was my story. By then, I had received a letter. Talk about mailouts, right?
Mailouts work.
That will, yes, that will come full circle. But mailouts do work. I
Wow.
received the letter from Century 21 Better Service Realty, David Sariñana, and that's how I contacted the office. They were very welcome. He had a lady in place. She was very kind. And then finally, I believe I had an interview, and then they took me in at Century 21 Better Service Realty as a part-time agent.
Okay.
From the time you joined the office to the time you did your first transaction, how much time was there? Months?
There were a few
Weeks?
months. A few months. It didn't seem like a lot, but yes, there were a few months. I probably closed my first transaction. It's been long ago, but within the first I want to say 3 to 6 months. I don't remember. I don't think it was 6, maybe 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
I had my first closing, and so that literally opened my eyes to the possibilities. I remember the office as a welcome gift or something. They gave me business cards.
Okay.
With my name on it.
Yeah.
It said right there. I think they wrote licensed real estate professional or something
Sure.
like that. And I looked at the car and I go, man, this looks good.
This is it.
So I asked, I go, so what do I do to get business? He says, well, it's very easy. You're gonna door knock.
Yeah.
Okay, and how do you door knock? Well, you find any street you like, you knock on the door, whoever comes out, you ask them, are you planning to buy or sell a property now or in the near future? I remember going to Southgate again because I wanted everything closed. My first time, I got in my car and see, guys, let me share something right here. Let me kind of make a parenthesis. If
Yeah.
anybody listening, watching, I always tell new agents or newer agents that not knowing much about the business is in a way, is a blessing.
Sure. Yeah, I believe
Sometimes
that.
I've seen agents.
Yeah.
I've seen agents that come from another office and want to join your organization, some organization, but if you've been an agent for a while, you've already gotten yourself into a set of habits.
Sure.
If your habits are good,
Yeah.
great. But the chances of that happening, they're not so good. So coming into an organization as a new agent and just being open to learning their system, I think is one of the biggest blessings that you can have.
That's right.
Especially if you join an office, an organization that has training, that has mentors, that has people in the office that are open to share things with you, is one of the most awesome things.
Why do you think it's important for someone to come in as a blank slate versus like an experienced agent that maybe 2 to 5 years in the business? Why do you think the person that has a blank slate has more leverage than the other one?
Because the one that's coming with some experience comes with a set of habits.
Right.
And again, as I mentioned, if the habits are good, terrific. But most of the time, an agent that's looking for the next organization has gotten himself into a pattern of habits that is probably not serving the agent very well.
Mm-hmm.
And you come into a new organization, and everything that he hears, he puts it through the filter that he already has, versus a new agent that is open to receiving instructions and being a lot more coachable. That's the reason.
Which is one thing he always talks about. You got to be coachable.
I think it makes a big difference when things work out for
He
us.
always tells me that. I'm about to tell you, though, you got to be open-minded. Okay, I'm open-minded. So there.
Wait, was this your coach?
No, but he became like my actual life. That's why I say mentor. I think mentor and a big brother. I put that in a retrospect, very fitting, very respectful, because we've had conversations privately. And I remember one conversation, he just hit me straight in the chest and pretty much man up.
Yeah.
And it was after that, I'm like, all right, understood. I know what I had to do. I know, as a matter of fact, it had to do with what happened years ago today.
I remember that very conversation he's talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. And those conversations that we will have, they're usually before a run or after a run. And those conversations were
very
good.
made me to a lot of who I am today. But coach, if I could say though, if there's a word for that, then yeah, I would say it's a life coach, more of a mentor, more of a big brother, and someone that all you had to do is like if we're playing basketball, all you had to do is look at me in the court like get your shit straight.
Yeah,
got it. Understand.
Yeah, I'm really curious because he talks very highly of you, and I know of you, I don't know you. And so it's really interesting to hear your story. And I'm curious to learn more about it too. From you jumping into real estate, how long did it take you to get into a full-time agent and leaving that factory job? Like how many months, how many years did that take?
So it took me probably close to a year, not a full year. Needless to say, I was very blessed. One thing that I can share with you is that I was that new agent. I will say very naive. I didn't know left from right, literally. When it comes to real estate, I knew nothing about it. But one thing that I did have is that coachability, or being willing to learn, being willing to listen. I was there to do exactly that. I wouldn't, as a part-time agent, I only had about four and a half hours to be in the office. Right after that, I had to leave because my shift was going to start right on my regular day. So it was very little time. So whatever time I had available to be in the office, I will try to use it.
Maximize it.
Just try to prospect as best as you can.
Story with me, your first listing, I think. And if you could share a story, maybe I'm missing something. it was during your break. You got the appointment or something like that.
There was one. It wasn't my first one, but yeah, I told it was
Story out, man.
a funny story that at my job when I was still a part-time agent, I had the swing shift. The swing shift is from 3:30 to 11:30. That's 8 hours, right?
Yep.
And that was my shift during a period of time at that job. And I remember prospecting in the morning, door knocking.
Yeah.
One time I set up a listing appointment. It says, well, my husband's going to be here later. We are thinking of selling the property. So I literally set up a listing presentation for the evening. Now, in the evening time,
But you
I
had
was
work.
supposed to be at work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
remember-
crazy.
I had a break from, I believe it was from 7 o'clock to 7:45. So I set up my appointment at 7:15. It was close by. And literally what I took is I took clothes to my job and I changed, because remember at work you'll get dirty, right?
Yeah.
You use work clothes. I remember using a uniform, but it was a uniform for work. And at that time, really, throughout those 5 years at the factory, my place in the company had gotten a little bit better. So by then I had been given the position of a foreman. So I didn't get that dirty. but I
Foreman
still
doesn't get that dirty. Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
get that dirty, but still.
Still, yeah.
So I needed to change. So come 7 o'clock, I had my stuff ready. I changed in the car. I drove over to the listing appointment. And by then I had done a few listing presentations. I'm sure the first one and second and third and a whole bunch of them, I messed them up. But by then I felt that I had a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
So I just tried to, I changed in the car. I drove over to their place. Oh, I'm here to talk to your husband. And by then we already talked on the phone. So things were more or less set up. So probably about 15 minutes into the appointment, everything looked good. I collected some signatures. I thanked them for the opportunity, and I went right back. And at 7:45, I was back at the factory. So
Wow,
and that's how
man, that's incredible.
So that was
Stories like this go unnoticed when someone's trying to make the transition
Yeah,
from a regular job into becoming a realtor,
Talk about
becoming something
really-
else.
pre-qualifying,
Yeah.
and that's, I think we always talk about that in trainings, or I tell him or something.
Yeah.
I hear the agents, but that's something I picked up from you. Did they answer these questions? And
Yeah.
and if you would always tell me. I remember one time I asked you. You asked me a question. I'm like, oh, I didn't ask that, but it's okay. And you said no. You need to ask that question before you come back. I was like, oh, okay. Well, then let me go back and ask the seller. But imagine you only have what 35 minutes. Probably?
Yeah, that's a lot of discipline.
it was
Making the appointment that, I mean,
Everything
at
had to
listing
work.
presentations, the ones that I've been on, I haven't really had a time constraint. So they kind of go a little bit longer. But I could see it being strategically good to where you only block off 30 minutes for the appointment. You get to the points much faster.
At that time, it was a need.
Check it out. He had to.
You had
And there
to.
was a need.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of realtors and this business per se don't have that mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out well, and it sold thanks to, by then I had gotten a little bit of training, so that's the reason why I was saying being coach or being willing to learn. You're there to learn, and you associate yourself with a company, with an organization where there is people that will train you. So by then I had a little bit of training, a few practices, I had taken a few listings by then, and it just worked out very well. This pre-qualification that you guys talk about in trainings is super important, because in reality, when we go and meet with them, I mean, things can be so easy if that appointment was well pre-qualified, that it's a matter of you show up, you greet the client, and really we're there to collect some signatures.
Yeah.
Now, if they have some questions, let's address their questions. But I love that. I love that. I love that 1 minute listing presentation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be in the specific questions that Mike tells us.
Yeah.
It could be any questions that you yourself design. But the long story short is a face-to-face meeting, greet them, and then it's almost like when you show up, if you come well prepared to handle any question and any objection that they have, chances are there are going to be no questions and no objections.
Right.
That's
how it's supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we show up having pre-qualified that person, chances are questions are hardly going to show up, And objections are probably going to be absent. So we're there simply to take care of a contract. We already talked about price. Chances are we touch base on in regards to commission and stuff like that.
Damn.
By then we have all the paperwork taken care of, including the net sheet. So net sheet in front of them. The only question is, do you have any questions? No questions. Okay, we'll collect some signatures and we'll be on our way.
Why do you think agents have a problem with pre-qualifying? Why do you think they wait until seeing them in person to ask them the important questions like price and commission?
I believe the reason why we don't get into details like that on the phone is sometimes we're afraid that if we talk about that, they're going to say, well, never mind, let me call you back. I need to talk to someone else or whatever the case may be. So the fear of loss, the fear of losing that appointment that in a way it's already penciled in or already set up, that's the reason we hold back from asking those questions that are going to make the big difference as to how that listing appointment is going to work out.
There's one thing you shared with me. I always remember. I remember exactly where I was sitting at. I don't know if the year was 06 or 07. Don't remember. You were walking in, and I got up. Like, I have to ask this guy this question. This guy was. You were walking in. Your office would be on the corner.
Yeah.
And this guy was like Batman. We just walk in. Wouldn't even say hi to people. And I remember walking up to him like, "Hey, champ, I have a question for you." He said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "If there's one thing you could tell me," the market was already boom dipping. It was shifting big time, and it was going full throttle.
Is 08 now? Like 08, 09?
08, we're going into that market, right? That's what I remember the year. But I don't know if it was already, they were hindering, like they're already kind of talking about it. And I asked them, if there's one thing I could learn from you or something you tell me to do, what would it be? And I remember you said, do not get emotionally attached to this business.
Yeah.
And I just said,
hard.
And he said, just to that, this is the business. You get a seller that wants to sell, and you find a buyer that wants to buy, and you put that in the middle, and do not get emotionally attached to the business.
Yeah.
And he walks away, and I'm like,
What?
like that was it. Like se te acabó la cora, como dicen en español.
Yeah, I think I remember that time, and really what I meant to share with them, I think it went more or less like this. The business that we're in, it's such a simple business. We heard it many times, right? It's not easy, but it's very simple.
It is simple.
There is always someone that wants to sell a property for their own reason, and the reasons are many. They're different. There is someone that wants to buy the property. Our job is to get on the way without getting in the way.
Right.
It's kind of like that simple.
Get on the way without getting in the way.
Without getting in the way.
Right. And that just talk about that simplicity of things. Sometimes we overburden ourselves as an agent thinking, what do I have to say to this person so I can convince them that they need to sell or that they need to buy? Yeah. We don't need to do that. We don't need to bother ourselves with what do I need to say to convince them. They are convinced already.
Right.
The only question in their mind when they're going to sell a property is, who am I going to sell it with?
Right.
They already made up their mind.
That's true.
So our job is to show up as someone that they recognize he knows what he's doing. She knows what she's doing. I'm gonna list with her. I'm gonna list with him. So our job is to present ourselves in front of them in such a way that they recognize that we are the right person to do what it is that they are going to do anyways. But we don't have to burden ourselves. What do I have to tell you to convince you?
Right.
They're convinced already. They are going to do it. If they're gonna buy, they're gonna sell. They are going to do.
Their mind's set.
Their mind is correct. Their mind is set. The only question remaining in their mind is, who am I going to do it with? And if we show up at the right time and we have them recognize that, look, I can help you with that. I can assist you with that. Whatever challenge there is, I can handle it. And if they see our true intention that, oh, this guy here is here to help me. He's helpful. He's respectful. He's here. He means what he says. Yeah. There is no...
There's no questions after that.
Exactly. It's just I
think sometimes the question is, why didn't I meet you before?
There you go. That's exactly right. Yeah. So the business is simple, not easy, but if we keep our frame of mind in the simplicity of the business, I think we have a much better chance of just internally knowing that this is my place. I'm going to do well because I mean well. Yeah. If our intentions are good in the business, you are going to do well. Yeah. Especially if you internalize that helpfulness, you show up in someone's life to help them. To help them buy a property they want to buy, to help them sell a property they want to sell. And again, they already made up their mind that they are going to do what they're going to do. The only question is with whom. And we're there to feel.
It's so powerful. I think there was a property that you sold or you got the listing at, and then I think the gentleman told you he's a broker.
Oh yes, yes,
And his answer was, correct me if I'm wrong. You said, "Great, we'll put that in the contract."
That's true.
And he still got the listing.
Wait,
The
seller was a broker.
Yeah. The seller was a real estate broker.
What?
So we're having this conversation.
Check this out. Talk about confidence at its peak and walking in like.
You walk into a listing appointment,
Yeah.
and then the person you're meeting with is a broker?
This was actually on the phone. We're having a conversation.
Oh,
on the
really?
phone. Yeah.
Oh, damn it. He can.
It was a conversation on the phone. So he calls me and he tells me about this property that he wants to sell. And we talk about price and all of this and commission. And we talked about a lot of things. It was a good, maybe 30-minute conversation on the phone. I consider this a pre-qualification conversation. And then once we went through all of it and we're already done with questions, the gentleman says, okay, well, that's all fine. But I need for you to know that I'm a real estate broker. So at that time, what came to, I was in flow with my questions and my answers. I was perfectly fine.
You're running down the Hollywood sign.
Exactly. In a way, I just
Full throttle.
I was in the flow. And when he says, well, I need for you to know that I'm a real estate broker, I could have taken it as, oh, shoot. So does that mean you're going to list the property or,
Right.
oh, whatever, right? Well, my reaction to his statement was, well, that's perfectly fine. We're going to write that on the contract that you are a real estate broker. And he said nothing. We continued with the conversation. I took the listing. We actually wrote in the contract, seller is a real estate broker, and I sold his property. Yeah.
Nice. Did you deal with more sellers, buyers, or investors throughout your career?
More sellers, definitely.
Okay.
And for newer agents, something that every agent that's been in the business for any length of time, your time, the investment of your time is much better put to use if you concentrate on working with the seller versus with the buyer.
Absolutely. Has your career shifted? Because you came in part-time, you went full-time, you've worked with sellers throughout your career. Are you still consistently working with your sellers, or has your career shifted to buying property, rehabbing it, buying units? Where are you at right now in your career?
Definitely has shifted. In the last few years, I made a big shift on the way that I approach the business. I'm enjoying this stage of my life, in that I find myself doing, I call them projects.
Okay.
But what it is I bought a few properties that I'm getting ready for resale, something that I've done before. I started doing this in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. I bought a number of properties and I will buy them and fix them up and sell them for a profit, alongside of listing a lot of property. In reality, our business is so beautiful that we can do three things from a cubicle or an office, let alone a beautiful setting like this. You can do so many things. But the three things that I concentrated my my efforts in for many years was listing and selling property as number one. That took probably most of the time that I had available. Number two, buying and selling properties for a profit. And once I had done a few of those, then I started buying property for property management, apartment buildings. And I was able to do that from the very desk that I was making phone calls.
Okay.
That's all we need. We just need to allocate our time properly.
Yeah.
That's the important part. That's the important part.
The allocation of
time.
When you were buying the properties that you were buying, were you buying them because you saw them for sale, or because you ran into the seller and you thought it was a good opportunity and you ended up deciding to buy it?
It was all of the above, really. Back in those days, HUD was a big seller of properties.
Okay.
Remember HUD?
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard about it.
Yeah.
Right? So HUD will sell properties, fixer-uppers through auction.
Yeah.
They will auction them off, and I will try to buy just as much as I could. Didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I will buy a property here and there, and I will fix it up and sell it for a profit. One thing that worked really well is that thankfully I came into the opportunity of doing exchanges rather than selling them straight out.
Yeah.
I will buy a property. fix it up and sell it for a profit, and with the proceeds of that property, we'll buy another one instead of cashing out.
Yeah.
And
Keep rolling it over.
right, exactly. So it was a little bit of a snowball effect, and it worked beautifully. So I will buy properties from there. From time to time, I will list a property. I will look at the property and go, wow, this property is so nice and the potential for investment. That I do remember the first few listings that I took on Fixer Uppers. There were a couple of investors in the office. One with a big name that everybody knows, Lorenzo. He was buying properties even when I started. So the first few listings that I got, I would bring him to him. Like, do you want to buy this? And he will be happy to. So he got a few listings that I got. After doing a few of those, and after putting a little bit of money in my bank account, I remember I listed a property on 71st Street, and I go, I like this property. I asked the owner, would it be okay? You're gonna sell the property. You have the price. You want to sell it the way it is, and you want to sell it as fast as you can. So an investor is going to buy it. You know, I'm planning to buy a property, and I've been saving a little bit of money. Would it be okay if I buy it myself? And we'll put that in the contract. We'll disclose all of that. And I remember that lady. She was very happy. She goes, "Yeah, I'll be happy to." Remember, at that time, properties were not selling like the way they're selling right now.
Sure.
Properties will just sit on the market.
Sure.
So by then, I felt that I had put in a few good points with Lorenzo. Lorenzo was flipping property. So I asked him, hey, you know what? I listed another property. This one I want to buy it myself. Would you come with me and tell me what you think? Because I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So I took him to 71st Street. I go, look, this is the property. And he asked me, how much can you buy it for? And I gave him the price. And he looked around and says, buy it. I go, well, what do you mean? But like, hold on. Like, explain to me how it's going to work out. You can lose. That's all he said. So if you order that price, you can lose. And that's it. He walked out. I had driven in my car. He got in my car again. He said, let's go. Oh, my goodness. Really? I thought he was going to explain to me, okay, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to put new windows. And you're going to do the floor. You're going to give me some pointers.
Yeah.
No, it's just buy it. You can lose. But that's all the reassurance that I needed. I already felt it was a good deal. She reassured me that it was a good deal. I bought the property, and I remember I talked to someone to help me fix it and stuff like that. But I was so really afraid that something was going to happen to the property. I would go to the property every day.
Yeah.
And I would look. I just wanted to make sure that it was still there. Like,
how were you buying the property? What kind of debt were you using?
So I bought it with 20% down. And I remember the loan was given to me by I think it was Home Savings, a bank that no longer exists. But I bought it 20% down, and then once I bought it, fixed it, put a certain amount of money, and I think again at the time the properties were not selling. We had to offer a lot of commissions for the properties to sell. You know how right now you see the MLS is like 1%, 1.5%.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
You know, the days of the 3%, that kind of like, they're not here anymore. At that time, you will have to offer like 4% or 5% for someone to sell your property.
Wow.
So
I got to see that myself.
Did you?
Yeah, I got to see that
That's
myself.
what it was. It was a different market. So everything worked out on that property. That built a little
You
bit.
still have it?
I don't. I sold it.
You sold it.
I 1031 it. So in one of those other properties, the property is still there somewhere. It lives through one of those.
I remember you had a property in East LA by crossing the bridge. I remember one time we ran through it. Did you end up selling it?
On second, yes. Also a 1031 exchange.
It was like 4 units.
Yeah. One of those, it was nice looking building. Yeah.
How much is that building now?
Oh my goodness, that property must be 4 units. That kind of a building, 1.5, maybe more.
Do you regret selling all these, or do you think it helped
That's a good
with
question.
the whole snowball thing that you were talking about?
Such a good question, Jesse. You know, every property that I had a chance to buy and then I sold it, once in a while, you know, we drive around a lot. Once in a while, I drive by one of them, and then I look at it, I go, shouldn't have sold it. And I felt like that about each one of the properties. However, there is a point to selling a property. When you sell a property for a profit, if you do it right, what you're doing is you're increasing your working capital.
Right.
And you put in your business, you put in a better foundation on your business. If you plan to do that for a while, whether you 1031 it, whether you exchange it, or whether you cash out on that property, as long as you keep treating it as a business, that additional capital is going to help you do more. And if you're coming from where I'm coming from zero. Like no money. So at the beginning, it was very important to do some of those to be able to grow our working capital in a set up a good foundation before we start to go up. So as much as I do regret selling a lot of those properties,
Sure.
I also believe that it's necessary. It's
Yeah.
like it's a
Stepping
part of the
stone.
process.
Yeah, it's part of
It's
the
definitely a part of the process. It helps you build your working capital, and then by then you can move on to do bigger things if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have this crazy mindset. You always tell me, and I still share it to this day. He's a champion. But I remember back then, even buy a property in Watts
Yeah.
or Compton. Not what it is today, right?
Yeah,
Now
it's
they're gonna be like,
changing.
well, why don't you buy over here? He said, nope, chap. Never know, man. We might have that big earthquake, and that property might be beachfront.
You know how they say that California is gonna split?
Yeah.
I have to share that story.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that it split right down some of the properties that we own. We'll have beachfront properties.
Yeah. Yes.
It's gonna be a
I'm like, man, champ, you're like really optimistic with
Yeah.
these mind. What will happen to the other end? Well, if my property then will have an island. Like, what? The property will be on the other end.
on the other like
It's gonna be all value, champion. Don't worry about the big one. Let's just worry it just lands by where your properties are at. We'll have beachfront property. I said, well, damn. Well, if that's the case, I won't be next to you if that ever happens.
it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be
Talk about someone being very optimistic with everything. That's him.
it's gonna be an awesome thing. Yeah.
So are you still working on buying property, fixing it up, and selling it now to this day?
Yeah. So you asked me where do I find myself now? I
Yeah.
find myself now doing things that I've done before, but somehow gravitating towards what I enjoy.
Okay.
I love the business. I love the business of real estate.
That's such a blessing.
I don't see myself doing anything other than real estate related activities for
Right.
business, and it's just a lot of fun. But for how things have worked out in the last few years, I've shifted away from concentrating on listing and selling property, and doing more of a property management is part of what we do. We have to. That's an ongoing thing. And in addition to that, as of late, I got myself into a few projects that I'm working on, that is to buy a certain property, fix it up, dress it up really nicely, sell it, move on, and do the next one. I plan to do that for this stage. Nothing is permanent.
Sure.
So we'll do this
Yeah.
for now, and let's see what's on the other end.
What do you think gives you the most satisfaction? Helping a seller sell their house, helping a buyer buy the house, or buying something, fixing it, and selling it to a good family? What do you get the most satisfaction out of?
Oh, really good question, Jesse. And I really believe it's all of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. It, for me, was such a blessing back in those early years and throughout the many years that I listed and sold property, to work with that one buyer that wanted to just get that property and then close the deal and be able to meet him and give him their closing statement and their key and see the big smile on their faces. And that was just such a blessing.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
buy that with money. By the same token, to work with the seller that had this property, maybe a problem property. Some properties are problems
Yeah.
in reality. We might not see it like that because we see a piece of real estate as an asset. But to someone else, it's a problem.
It could be a
They
burden.
want-
It could be too much
Correct.
work.
Yep.
Right.
It could be stressful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then being able to buy a property and turn it from what it is, a haunted house, into a beautiful property that right that someone can
true.
buy and then
true.
raise their families or whatever the case may be, big time. So I've enjoyed.
You've
all
enjoyed even like revamping the neighborhood and making it.
We're doing something for
yeah.
the community.
Yeah,
We're actually contributing to the betterment of the community if we're doing that. I do remember on terms of buying, there was one buyer that really, I always think of him, Ricardo Medina from Bell Gardens. He had a house in Commerce, in the city of Commerce. And the city of Commerce bought his property because they were doing a redevelopment in the area. And then he had money to buy his next property. I was door knocking the neighborhood, and then Ricardo called me on a card that I left, and he told me his whole story. So the city is buying my property now. I'm getting some money. I want to buy a new property. Can you help me? I'll be happy to. I was fairly new in the business. And I remember he says, but I want to buy a property here in the city of Commerce. We live in Commerce. We love Commerce. We don't want to go anywhere else. We want to stay here. I go, great. I'll do what I can to find you a property. Count on me. I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
Well, I remember we found this property. I showed it to him. Him and his wife, they loved the property. And they had a young family then. And then he asked me, okay, so let's make an offer because that's a little more than what I can pay. If I remember the numbers correctly, I think they wanted 165,000 list price in Commerce. I mean, that tells you how many years ago.
Yeah.
He wanted to offer probably 155 because he thought it was a little more than what he wanted to pay. We made out the offer for 155 and we got a counter offer at 160. I met with him personally to go over the counter offer. I remember sitting in his living room, and at the time he had a little baby, Ricardo Jr. And he was a baby, and he was just holding them. I think he was wearing only diapers because it was a hot day. Okay, so I'm there with the counter offer at 160, and I told him, well, look, we offer $5,000, $10,000 less. They're willing to lower the price by $5,000. Buy the property at 160. He started thinking about it. He asked me what's the difference on the payment and stuff like that. I told him. He says, no, I cannot buy it. We need to look for something else. I could tell that they had really liked the property. It was like newer construction. And I told him, well, look, I really believe that you should buy this property. And I gave him my own reasons, my own opinion. And then he got a little bit upset. And he says, well, look, Fernando, how much did you say that the payment is going to increase? And I think it was like $20 or $50, whatever the case might have been. And I go, look, it's only $50 a month, the difference, whatever the payment might have been, payment difference. And then it says, look, it's only that difference. In the office, we're trained to break it down to the ridiculous. Yeah. It's only, okay, so if it's $30 divided by 30, it's $1 a day, it's not a lot. And now we're selling, right? We're using our salesmanship to try to, get that sale.
I was doing this the other day.
Well, I was trying that and different things, and he was upset. He got a little bit upset and says, look, Fernando, what you don't understand is this. How old are you? And I give him my age. Do you have any kids? I go, no, I don't have any kids. So he says, well, look, what you don't understand is this little baby with a $20 difference or $50 difference, I can buy him 3 gallons of milk, or I can buy him milk and diapers or something like that. So with that, what am I to say, right? The man was right. He felt that he needed that money for his baby.
Sure.
Well, for whatever reason, I kept insisting, and I probably told him 2 or 3 times how little it was per day, breaking it down to the ridiculous. Afterwards, I probably annoyed him, maybe. He says, that's fine. We're going to buy it. That's fine. He signed the counter offer at 160. And then he signed it, and then he saw me do this little, yes. He saw me, like I go, yes. And he saw me. So you're happy that I signed, huh? I go, I think it's going to be a good investment for you. And I left it at that. But he was a little bit upset, but he was a little bit of a joker himself, I remember. So because of that, I said, yes, whatever, right? And he saw me, a little obvious, and that's okay. All right. So afterwards, he stayed in contact with me. He invited me to his house to go and have dinner and to go and have lunch. I remember one time my parents were here, and he invited all of us to go and have dinner with them. Fast forward to about 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago. I get a call. By the way, he passed. He passed probably maybe 10 years ago.
Sorry.
About 3 years ago, I get a phone call from his wife, Mrs. Medina. And he says, Fernando, we're calling you because my son, my daughters, they have 2 older daughters, and they have the son, the little baby. So Ricardo is coming back from New York. He went to study law, and he's coming for the holidays. We're going to have a dinner, and we would like for you to come and join us. Get this. They still live at the same house, the house that they bought for 160, and the men didn't want to buy it.
Wow.
So all of this story, and they were so happy, and they've been so happy for all of these years. You see, you can buy that with money.
Yeah.
To your point of what do I enjoy most?
Yeah.
See, working with the buyer, and I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Getting those phone calls and that Mrs. Medina saying, come over.
Yeah.
Baby, Ricardo Medina, he's going to be a lawyer pretty soon. He's coming from New York. He wants to have dinner with the whole family, and we want to invite you. Come by that.
Yeah, I've built better relationships with buyers than my sellers.
I think
And it's an art
to that. Yeah, I
and
think
it's
there's
an art for
something-
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems that we're chatting with this guy. I feel like we just started 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Your time is going
much
by.
time we have?
I know you have something.
I'm like on schedule today, but I think I want to do this again. What do you think?
Yeah, this was great, man. It was good talking to you. Now,
It's
now
not-
I can finally like put stories to the person that he speaks highly of. It's very nice
Thank you.
to meet people that he admires, because I admire this guy, and it's nice to kind of see who he grew up with and who was around him, because I'm around this guy every day, and I feel like, I don't know, I'm a jokester, and I try to keep him young, but it's cool seeing you know, how he got through his career and how he got to where he's at, you know, and I'm sure you're a big part of it, because every time something came up, oh, Fernando Moreno, my friend, oh, you got a Tesla? Oh, my friend Fernando, he has the plaid. Yeah, the plaid. I'm like, who is this Fernando Moreno, man?
We didn't get
Yeah.
About that. I think we gotta do a Tesla run.
we gotta do that. We gotta talk about riding.
Yeah.
Talk about bikes.
So will you come back?
Totally.
You come back? Yeah, I think we gotta.
Yeah, we'll invite him. We'll invite him over again.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have to have a conversation about Thanksgiving, something about Tesla Thanksgiving for us to
got
have something in the
we got
parking lot.
something in
I
the
think that's a
brewing.
good idea.
Yeah, and make him feel better about his nice BMW, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. With this 20
We
inch.
just cut this right now. You guys are gonna
interest.
start roasting my ass over here. Get out of here with your test.
No, but I say we invite the neighborhood to some sort of Tesla event that we have here.
We got a thing going on. We gotta do it. We got a thing going on for Thanksgiving. We're planning it out. We're gonna invite people with tests to come out to the parking
Really?
lot. We're gonna do it out here in the parking lot, and then we're gonna do like a little 5K. Invite the community to come out and run,
Hey, I'm down for all of that.
and then bring your whip. Get the community involved. So we're doing a lot of little things that are gonna, in hindsight, are gonna add up to a lot of big things. We have this crazy idea that I always share with you, and I share with this guy. And locos atraen locos, but then the world will be boring if you don't have people like us. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I appreciate that you invested some time with us, because I know you're a busy man trying to get this guy on a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Good. No, thank you guys. I've enjoyed the time, and totally, we should. Do
How can people find you? Let's end it with that. How can people find you?
I tell you, if there's anything that I can share with you guys, social media and all of that is really good. I don't mind. You can find me at a Better Service Realty. I'm there. I'm there all the time. You can also find me at the property management company that we started and we run. Gardes Properties. That's what I want to call it. Gardes.
Gardes. With
Gardes.
This. Nice.
Gardes Properties.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and you want to check out any of my social is Fernie Moreno Real Estate. That's my handle, and you can find me there
On Instagram.
Contact on
Nice.
Instagram.
On Facebook's just Fernando Moreno.
Yeah.
There it is. Those are his handles.
There it is, y'all. Thank you for coming out, man.
Thanks a
Thank you,
lot.
guys.
Stay tuned, because we got part 2 coming up. pretty
Yes,
soon.
sir.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.